Well, hello there, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Jacks of No Trade podcast, a place where we can talk about myths and legends, things that are haunting, amazing, sometimes silly, cryptids, extraterrestrial life, and the paranormal, along with some of our favorite music, films, games, and different mediums of art and entertainment that shaped us over the years. But on today's show, we'll be focusing on cryptids. That's monsters and myths from around the globe. We'll be taking a trip from South Africa to Korea, then Japan, and then we'll bring it home to the United States. So let us begin. We'll begin with South African Groot slang. According to legend, the Groot slang is a primordial creature as old as the world itself. Tales state that the gods, new to crafting of things, made a terrible mistake in the Groot slang's creation and gave it tremendous strength, cunning, and intellect. Realizing their mistake, the gods split the Groot slang into separate creatures and thus created the first elephants and snakes. I love snakes. Elephants are also cool. But one of the original Groot slangs escaped, and from this first sire, all other Groot slangs were born. It is claimed to devour elephants by luring it into its cave. This cave is known as the Wonder Hole, or the Bottomless Pit. According to legend, it connects to the sea, which is 40 miles away. This cave is filled with diamonds, and it is also said to live in warm water. In Benin, it is said to be a huge elephant-like creature with a serpent's tail. Also, according to the tales, Groot slangs covet gems, particularly diamonds, and despite the creature's lust for cruelty, some victims can often bargain for their freedom by offering the Groot slang enough precious gems. While searching for treasure in Richtersveld of South Africa in 1917, English businessman Peter Grayson disappeared after members of his party were attacked and injured by lions, prompting the legend of the Groot slang. A giant snake with an elephant's head. No thank you. And we'll be perusing around the area, and we'll speak about the Nkanyamba. The Nkanyamba is a legendary serpent, said to be living in a waterfall lake area in the northern forest near Pietermaritzburg, most commonly in the base of the Hoek Falls, South Africa. According to Zulu tribe legend, the area is believed to be home to a large serpent with an equine head. That's a horse head. When I was younger, I had no idea what equine was, or could I say it. Most active in the summer months, it is believed that the Nkanyamba's anger causes the seasonal storms. That's pretty interesting. I guess it's like a giant sea serpent. Everywhere kind of has that, but this one seems to have the power to create storms. Hell yeah. Now we'll be going all the way up to Korea. Let's see here. We'll be speaking now about the dokebi. This is one of my favorite new cryptids that I've found over the past few years. The dokebi, which translates to Korean goblins, are nature deities or spirits possessing extraordinary powers and abilities that are used to interact with humans, at times playing tricks on them and others helping them. Many legends describe the dokebi, and they differ across those legends. They often are seen in hanbok, which is a semi-formal clothing that is usually worn during traditional occasions such as festivals. It's common to be brightly colored and have simple lines with no pockets. And most of the dokebi actually have the same surname, which is Kim. Dokebi are actually very different from ghosts, called guishin in Korea, in that they are not formed by the death of a human being, but rather by the spiritual possession of an inanimate object, such as an old discarded household tool like a broom, or an object stained with human blood. The appearance of dokebi is presented many different ways across the many different stories throughout time, but they have always been depicted as fearsome and awe-inspiring. The most common depiction of them is based on onokaibi mythology, which assign them all kinds of different magical attributes. In some cases, they are considered harmless, but nevertheless mischievous, usually pranking on people or challenging wayward travelers in a Korean wrestling match for the right to pass. Dokebi are extremely skilled at wrestling and cannot be beaten unless their right side is exploited. In other tales, the dokebi have only one leg, so one should hook their leg and push them. The dokebi are known to possess magical items, such as the dokebi hat, called the dokebi gamtu, which grants the wearer the ability to be invisible, and the dokebi magic club, called the dokebi bangmangi, which can summon things and act functionally as a magic wand. Dokebi also like to eat buckwheat jelly, sorghum, red bean rice cakes, mashed sorghum, and they love strong drink. Ancient roof tiles also depict dokebi patterns. So if you're in Korea and you haven't heard a whole lot about the dokebi, I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to find some interesting things just by looking about. Many legends have dokebis in their stories. They're usually playing pranks or punishing humans for their evil deeds. But the main story that I've come across about the dokebi is pretty funny. It's about an old man who lived in a mountain alone, a hermit. One night he was sitting outside by a fire he was tending, and he was drinking strong beverages. Adult strong beverages. He was getting drunk. And a dokebi came up and surprised the old man. He gave the dokebi some of the spirits and they shared the bottle, and they had a good evening. They would meet up and drink, and they became friends. He visited often, and they had long conversations. But one day, the man took a walk by himself into the forest near the river and saw his reflection. He realized that he was changing. He was changing to look more and more like the dokebi. Filled with fear, he realized that he was gradually becoming the creature. The man made a plan to prevent himself from becoming a dokebi and invited the creature to his house. He asked, "What are you afraid of?" And the dokebi answered, "I'm afraid of blood. What are you afraid of?" The man pretended to be frightened and said, "I'm afraid of money. That's why I live in these mountains, all by myself." The next day, the old man killed a cow and poured its blood all over his house. The dokebi, with shock and great anger, ran away and said, "I'll be back with your greatest fear." The next day, the dokebi brought bags of money and threw it at the old man. After that day, the dokebi was never seen again, and the old man took the bags of money and became the richest person in the district. There are many different types of dokebi. There's the cham dokebi, which is a mischievous dokebi. There's the gai dokebi, which is the evil dokebi. There's the gim seobang dokebi, a dumb dokebi that looks like a farmer. There's the nat dokebi. Unlike other dokebi, these dokebi appear during the day, and they're known for giving dokebi gamtus to humans, which are the hats that make people invisible. There's the go dokebi, the dokebi known to be good at fighting and handling weapons, especially bow and arrow. There's the gaksi dokebi, and that's the maiden dokebi, and the chongak dokebi, which is the bachelor dokebi. They're both known to attract the opposite sex. There's the onun dokebi, which is the one-eyed dokebi that eats a lot. And then the otari dokebi, who literally means one leg and loves to wrestle. I'm sure a lot of people who are gamers out there have heard the term dokebi before, which has been used in a popular video game that is still played today. Rainbow Six Siege. Well, now that we got that out of the way, I guess let's just take a little trip on the water on this nice little ship down to Japan. The mists setting in. We creep up on the shore. You can feel the goose bumps on your arms. Oh, Japan's full of all kinds of interesting creatures. And we're going to start out with one of the silliest things I've ever heard of in my entire life. It's called the shirime, which translates to buttocks eye. And it's a strange, strange creature. And this story goes, long ago, a young samurai was walking at night down the old road to the old capital of Kyoto when he heard someone walking behind him. He looked back, but he did not see anything initially. Then he heard something again. He thought he heard someone asking for him to wait. He turned around. "Who's there?" he asked nervously, only to find a man stripping his clothes to his bare bottom. He saw a strange glow in his face, but he did not see any features. The figure turned around, bent over, and pulled its butt cheeks apart. And that's when the young samurai saw a gleaming eye blinking at him, and he hightailed it to Kyoto. This creature is so silly. I can't even believe it exists. It's far too silly. This creature was actually so popular in, just Japanese culture that people used it in poetry and paintings, and I've seen it in a Ghostbusters episode. And Yokai Watch is a show that my son watches. I've seen this creature was so popular. This guy named Busan used it in many of his paintings, and you could probably look that up. It's Buson. I love Japanese artwork. Now that we've got the silly one out of the way, I suppose it's time to move on to something a little bit more serious, and that would be the uobami, which translates roughly to giant snake or great serpent, and its alternative names are uruchi or daija. Its habitat is in the vast wilderness, and it's carnivorous, obviously, very, very fond of alcohol and gluttonous. Apart from their incredible size, they closely resemble ordinary snakes. They make their homes very far from civilization in the wilderness. Their most notable feature is that they eat so much food. They're capable of eating things much, much larger than their bodies, and in quantities that seem more and more insane. They also are extremely fond of drinking and consume huge quantities of sake. Like many animals, snakes are believed to have a variety of magical powers. They can shapeshift into various objects and creatures, including humans. They can even control the elements to some extent, and natural disasters such as floods, rock slides, are often attributed to the uobami. In addition to eating large volumes of food and consuming large volumes of alcohol, the uobami also like to feed on people. They set up ambushes and assault travelers in mountain passes. Because of their size, they can easily swallow a full-grown human whole, and they often do. However, they are sometimes outsmarted by clever people who live to tell these tales of what they saw. Snakes are a huge part of Japanese mythology since the earliest times. In part to their peculiar behaviors, snakes are symbols of life and death and eternal youth. The shedding and regrowing of their skin was viewed as magic. because they can slip into the tiniest cracks and can penetrate deep, dark places that are inaccessible to humans. They are viewed as a tenacious and clever creature. Because of these traits, snakes have long been considered to be gods or yokai, which are Japanese spirits. During different periods of history, they have been referred to as Orochi, Daija, and Uwabami, but all of these refer to the same creature. The name of the Uwabami roots going back to archaic Japanese. The first part of the name, Uwa, meant skillful or superior. Gradually this shifted to a similar sounding word, Uha, which meant great or large. The second part of the name is also archaic word for snake, Hami. This word derives from the word for eating, Hamu, which refers both to the snake's fondness of biting and its ability to eat things that appear much larger than it. So Uwabami were skillful eaters, which became, over time, giant snakes. That's awesome how that works. Another linguistic pointer of the interest in that the word Uwabami also has the colloquial meaning of heavy drinker. The reason for this is the Uwabami's great love for sake and its ability to drink far more alcohol than any creature its size. Famous tale comes from the Onuma Lake in Nagano Prefecture. Long ago, there was a daija who lived in Onuma Lake. Every year, he would transform into an extremely handsome young man and travel to the eastern mountains to view the cherry blossoms. One spring, he spied a beautiful young woman all by herself under the blossoms. The woman was known as Kurohime, which translates to Black Princess, the daughter of Takanashi Masamori, a powerful lord of the Shinano province. Kurohime also spied the handsome man who was watching her and found him irresistible. The two became acquainted and soon fell in love. Some time later, the handsome young man paid a visit to the castle of Takanashi Masamori. He introduced himself as the great snake who lives in Onuma Lake, great guardian deity of the Shiga Highlands. He explained that he and Kurohime were in love and asked the Lord for her hand in marriage. Masamori immediately snapped that he would never give his daughter to a creature such as him. The young man did not give up and returned day after day to ask for Kurohime's hand in marriage. Finally, the Lord relented and gave his conditions.
If you can keep up with me on horseback and complete 7 laps around my castle, I will give you my daughter.
The young man eagerly accepted and agreed to return to the castle in a few days for the race. Masamori was not about to let his daughter marry a snake, so he devised a plan to kill the creature so it would leave him and his daughter alone forever. He had his servants plant swords in the grass around the castle. Masamori was an expert rider, and he knew where the swords were hidden, so he would easily be able to avoid the traps. When the day of the race came, the young man showed up at the castle as promised. The race began, and Takanashi Masamori spurred his horse into action. He was indeed an expert rider, and the young man could not keep up with the Lord. He had to transform back into the snake in order to keep up with the pace of the horse. The swords planted in around the castle perimeter pierced and tore the snake's body, but he did not give up. Finally, the Lord and the snake completed their 7 laps. The snake's body was ragged, and rivers of blood flowed from his body. Immediately upon finishing his final lap, the daija collapsed. Masamori's trap had worked. After some time had passed, the daija woke. It looked around, and seeing nobody, it realized that Masamori had lied. Trembling with rage, the daija returned to the Shiga Highlands It summoned all of its family, servants, and clan members. All the spirits of the Shiga Highlands rose and summoned a great storm. The rain, likes of which had never been seen before. Onuma Lake swelled in size and burst forth, flooding everything around. All of the villagers surrounding the lake were annihilated. Houses were knocked down, fields were flooded and washed away. No humans or animals were able to escape the destruction. However, the mountains around Takanashi Masamori's castle acted like a shield, and the castle stood firm. Kurohime looked down from the castle and watched the torrent wash away the entire region. She was heartbroken and grief-stricken when she saw the destruction, realizing that only she had the power to stop the disaster. She left the castle by herself, traveled down to Onuma Lake. Kurohime threw herself into the flood and was never seen again. When the Daija realized what happened, it immediately scattered the storm clouds and caused the flood to recede. Onuma Lake shrank back to its original borders. The Daija is still worshipped today as the guardian deity of the Shiga Highlands, and there's a small shrine called Daija Jinja located near Onuma Lake, where the snake is enshrined. Every August, villagers gather there to perform the Daija Matsuri and remember the story of Kurohime. That one was deep. I really like that story. Man. So now we're going to leave Japan, and we're going to go across the Pacific Ocean and across most of the United States, and we're going to stop in Tennessee. The heartland or music, or I don't know, the heartbeat of America, something like that. Music City. We're in Music City. We're in Nashville now. Now we're going to go out to the country about 2 or 3 hours northeast. We'll say that. I hope we're still in Tennessee. We still got to be in Tennessee. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the Wampus Cat. The Wampus Cat is a cat-like creature in American folklore that varies wildly in appearance, ranging from frightful to comical, depending on the region. Early references by the American Dialect Society noted the Wampus Cat as a creature heard whining about the camps at night. A mythical green-eyed cat having occult powers, or an unidentified imaginary animal. Folklorist Vance Randolph described the Wampus Cat as a kind of amphibious panther which leaps into the water and swims like a colossal mink. Other commenters liken the Wampus Cat to a creature of Cherokee mythology. In Cherokee mythology, the monster is a cat-like embodiment of a female onlooker cursed by tribal elders. As punishment for hiding beneath the pelt of a large wild cat to witness a sacred ceremony. The Wampus Cat is used as a mascot for numerous educational institutes. During the 1920s and 30s, newspapers reported of a Wampus Cat killing livestock in North Carolina to Georgia, though possibly due to an early intrusion of coyotes or jaguarundi. The livestock deaths were attributed to the Wampus Cat. It's also said that if you hear the cry of the Wampus Cat, that someone that you know is going to die within 3 days. Ooh, spooky. So now that we finished that up, we're going to go a little bit north. We're going to go through Kentucky. Hey mom, we're going through Kentucky. Hey Gary, hey all my fam, hey Josh. Anyway, we're going up. Now we are in Ohio, and this one's going to be pretty fun. So we're going to talk about the Loveland Frogmen. In Ohio folklore, the Loveland Frog, also known as the Loveland Lizard, is a legendary humanoid frog described as standing roughly 4 feet tall. That's about 1.2 meters. Allegedly spotted in Loveland, Ohio. In 1972, the Loveland Frog gained legendary renewed attention When Loveland police officers sighted and killed an animal they later identified as a large iguana that was missing its tail. University of Cincinnati folklore professor Edgar Slotkin compared the Loveland frog to Paul Bunyan, saying the stories about it have been passed down for several decades, and that sighting reports seem to come in predictable cycles. In May 2014, the Loveland Frog legend was made into a musical titled Hot Damn, It's the Loveland Frog. On March 3rd, 1972, around 1 a.m., Loveland police officer Ray Stockton was driving on Riverside Drive near the Totes Boot Factory and the Little Miami River when an unidentified animal scurried across the road in front of his vehicle. The animal was fully illuminated in his vehicle's headlights, and he described it as a 3 to 4 foot. That's about 1 to 1.2 meters long and about 5 to 75 pounds. That's 23 to 34 kilograms with leathery skin. Excuse me. He reported spotting the animal crouched like a frog before it momentarily stood erect and climbed over the guardrail and backed down towards the river. 2 weeks later, the incident, a second police officer, Mark Matthews, reported seeing an unidentified animal crouched along the road in the same vicinity as Shocky's sighting. Matthews shot the animal, recovered the body, and put it in his trunk to show Officer Shockey. According to Matthews, it was a large iguana, about 3 to 3.5 feet long, and he didn't immediately recognize it because it was missing its tail. Matthews speculated that the iguana had been someone's pet, either got loose or was released when it got too large. According to Matthews, Shockey was shown the dead iguana and confirmed it was the animal he had seen 2 weeks previously. Matthews recounted the incident to an author of a book about urban legends, but says the author omitted the part that confirmed the creature was an iguana rather than a frogman. I also remember hearing a story of someone saying that the frogman had a wand, but I wasn't able to find that story. But anyway, after this long journey, we've learned about some of the most uncanny cryptids from around the world, and I hope that they don't keep you awake clutching your pillows. I thank you for listening to the show. If you have any questions or stories that you'd like me to cover, please drop an email at jackofnotradepodcast@gmail.com. You can also find me at HeadspaceKZ on Instagram. Have a great day, keep things positive, and I hope you tune in next time for the Jack of No Trades podcast. Have a great day.